Howdy everybody. I tried using cardboard as a sheet mulch to start a garden, and I wound up being attacked by millions of ants. What a nightmare! Here's the whole story. Sheet mulching is a common practice used in permaculture. It consists of applying layers of cardboard or newspapers to the ground in order to suppress vegetation and weeds. Now, you can find a lot of videos on YouTube of people using this technique to start their garden or to plant sapling trees. It's used for that as well. I was introduced to sheet mulching by my mentor, Geoff Lawton, in a permaculture design certificate course. Here Geoff is in a video called How to Make an Instant Garden.
Hi, Geoff Lawton here. People are always asking me, Geoff, what's the easiest way to build a garden and get some good food? I just want to know the easiest way with the least inputs for the maximum outputs. Well, I'm going to tell you. In fact, I'm going to show you. It's very easy.
Now, before I'm inundated with people accusing me of unduly attacking Geoff, let me say at the outset that I have the greatest respect for him, and I greatly appreciate the time that I spent with him in the Permaculture Design Certificate course. This story is about me mindlessly applying a technique without thinking it through first. Now, a theme that runs through many of my videos is that it's important to consider the context you are in before making decisions about designing your land or doing other projects. This is an instance in which I didn't do that, and I paid a hefty price for it. So I'm simply using Geoff's video to illustrate the technique. It's a great video. I highly recommend watching it, and I've put a link to it down in the description. Geoff starts by spreading a layer of food scraps to help establish the contours of the garden bed. He then adds a layer of manure and mixes that all together. The purpose of this is to attract earthworms and other composting organisms. Wet cardboard sheet mulching is then placed on top of this. Geoff uses wet cardboard to increase the moisture content and points out that corrugated cardboard will provide little laneways for earthworms to travel. Finally, he tops the garden bed with 3 to 6 inches of straw or hay mulch, and that's it. He then creates small holes in the straw mulch, fills those holes with compost or worm castings, and then plants the seedlings into that. And that's the garden. I was absolutely amazed when I saw this technique. I said, this is absolutely fantastic. And then and there decided that when I got back home, I was going to do it. So I set out saving food scraps and cardboard for the project, making sure that I had some corrugated cardboard so that I could take advantage of those little laneways for the earthworms. At the time, it didn't occur to me that I had never seen even one earthworm on our rocky property that was loaded with dirt, but no actual soil containing living organisms. We have that now, but we didn't back then. So I followed Geoff's instructions to the letter and set up my garden, which was about twice, maybe even 3 times the size of the one that he made in the video. And I waited. Things were fine for a couple of days, and then on the 3rd day I went out, and to my surprise, everything either was dead or had disappeared entirely. So I walked out onto the garden to examine what was going on. And that's when my nightmare began. I faced a vigorous attack by what seemed like millions of ants. Within seconds, I was covered from head to toe with them. Now, I know that those of you living in temperate climates have ants too, but trust me, you have nothing like we have here in the tropics. In case you think I'm exaggerating, this is a giant leafcutter ant colony that I'm showing you. It goes all over the place here. It goes all the way back to that dark tree in the back there. And you'll see places where there's little holes that are in the ground where they've made it for air. And that's the command center. Before the ants came, this was a giant pile of dirt and refuse from the construction of our house. It was all moved over here and just piled up over there and spread out. And that provided a perfect substrate for the ants to come and colonize it. Basically, the same thing happened with the sheet mulch. It provided a perfect habitat for the ants to come and colonize underneath it. Now, this was a different species of ant than leafcutters, one that's a lot more aggressive, but that's what happened. So I quickly ran a few steps away from the garden and started to strip all of my clothes. I stripped myself naked right out there. Lena had to shake the clothes out, hit them with sticks to try to get rid of the ants. And in the meantime, we were moving because every time she shook the clothes, there were ants and we're at risk of being attacked by them again. So we're moving along. We finally made it safely back into the house, and I was sick for a few hours with a bad headache. But then it kind of went away, and I managed the long-term effects of the bites with lots of calamine lotion. Fortunately, we live in a rural area, and I was spared the embarrassment of my neighbors seeing this event happening. And no one else actually knew about it except for Lena and I and the people that we told about it afterwards. Now, I want to emphasize that this was a nightmare of my own making. I became excited about a permaculture technique that I had been exposed to and rushed to implement it without thinking about the context that I was in. Anyone living here in Nicaragua or in the tropics knows that ants rule the forest. It's not the large predators. Most of those predators are afraid of humans. But ants have no fear whatsoever. And I knew this, but I failed to connect it to the project that I was working on. So hopefully this story will illustrate to you the importance of considering the context of where you are before you implement various practices that you hear about or read about. So with that, I'm going to end the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.